The biggest muscles in your forearms aren't trained by hammer curls or wrist curls. Today, I'm ranking all my favorite forearm movements based on which muscles they actually hit and how much size they can actually build. Before I rank each exercise, here's what I'm judging them on. First, and most important, is forearm thickness. Since this is mainly a muscle building tier list, exercises that train the largest forearm muscles have the best potential for growth and the highest score. Second is function and strength. Third is setup, convenience, and consistency. For thickness, I'm not judging exercises based off pump alone. I'm looking at which muscles they train, how large those muscles are, how well the movements load them, and whether their exercise can be progressively overloaded. The biggest contributors to overall forearm size: finger flexion, wrist extension, and elbow flexion. So throughout the tier list, I'll be balancing muscle size, exercise quality, and strength benefits. So first exercise, we have dumbbell hammer curls or rope cable hammer curls. I slightly prefer dumbbell, especially crossbody. They are going to be good for forearm thickness, and they're going to be very good for function and strength benefits. Pretty easy to set up and be consistent with. So I would consider these very good. Most guys are already training these. They're going to be good for your arms as well. So definitely good exercise to include. Now we're going to go into wrist curls, wrist flexion. So this will include dumbbell wrist curls, barbell wrist curls, and cable wrist curls. Out of those three, I prefer cable wrist curls. They feel the best. Then dumbbell and then barbell, but they are all good in their own respect. You can also modify the technique, so you can put the barbell, dumbbell, or the D handle into your fingers, roll it into your fingers, and now you're including finger flexion. So when you do it in this style, you're working the majority of the thickest muscles in your forearm. So automatically, these are a non-negotiable if you're trying to grow your forearms. So definitely got to include these. Now we're going to go into the wrist roller. It is going to be good for forearm thickness because you are working flexion and extension. It is good for functional benefit. It's pretty easy to set up too. The better way to do the wrist roller is to stand on something tall and have your arms stretched out. That way your shoulders and your arms are not the limiting factor. It also can be kind of annoying to do these once you start going heavier, but you are training multiple functions. And it's very specific. You are training the forearm. So I'll put these on the best. Now we're going to go into wrist extension. They do contribute a decent amount to your shape and thickness. Extremely underrated. They're really going to give you a very defined looking forearm, especially from the front. It's so underrated. Can give you indirect strength benefits and could be pretty easy to set up with these. So these will include barbell wrist extension, dumbbell wrist extension, and cable wrist extension. My favorite will be cable wrist extension, then followed by dumbbell, then barbell. All are still good. I will put these as very good. I could even put these in the top tier as well, but since the wrist roller does train wrist flexion, so with this you're training less muscle. So I'll put these as very good. Now we're going to go into farmer's walk. I will include deadlifts. So this will be assuming you're not doing this movement without straps. They're going to be pretty good. They're going to hit the finger flexion pretty well. It is an isometric hold, so you're not getting any type of range of movement. So that's something to consider. It is going to be good for function and strength benefits. Could be potentially harder to set up, getting heavier dumbbells and potentially doing a deadlift. So they are good for forearm thickness. They can contribute a lot and function. But it could be slightly annoying to set up. I personally don't do these, but I can see the benefit of doing these. So I'll rank them here. Now we're going to go into pull-ups, basically doing a reverse curl and a little bit of finger flexion, but I would consider these primarily a back movement, but you're hitting the forearms a lot. So it's going to be good for forearm thickness, functional and strength benefit. It'll be pretty easy to set up, depending if you're going to do these at home or at a gym. So these are very good, somewhere in the range with farmer's walks. A little bit indirect. I'll place them right below farmer's walk. Now we're going to go into hand grippers. They are going to hit the finger flexion. They are easy to use and be consistent with. And if you use them with different variations, it does give them a little bit extra points. Since you can do these at home, you can be very consistent with them. The finger flexors are the biggest muscle, so they do get a lot of extra points and do them in different variations. Now we're going to go into the karate belt, primarily used as arm wrestling training for pronation and radial deviation, so moving the wrist up. This exercise feels great as the karate belt is soft. You can easily train these functions, but for forearm thickness, this is where it's going to lose points, unfortunately, as radial deviation and pronation contributes very little to overall forearm thickness. It's one of my favorite pronation and radial deviation exercises, and it is good for functional benefit. So I will still consider it good, but what it does for those specific function, it does feel really good. We're going to go into forearm finisher. So this is a product by Golden Grip. This is going to work forearm extension and flexion, two areas of the four main muscle groups for forearm thickness. It's really going to shape your forearms well. It's really easy to implement. The stretch and contraction on this device feels really good. You can do these at home and be very consistent with these. I love this device because you can train flexion and extension. Definitely goes up in my tier list. Now we're going to go into the device Popeye's Pronator, primarily specifically used for pronation, but you can also train supination, radial deviation, ulnar deviation, even do essentially a hammer curl. So with the different variations, this is also good for functional benefit as the chain evenly distributes the weight, kind of mimicking a cable. So these would be good at home if you don't have a cable system, but it really does nothing for finger flexion or wrist flexion. So because of that, I'll put these as a very good, but you still need to do other stuff for forearm thickness. Now we're going to go into specifically arm wrestling cupping devices. So there's various different exercise devices with this. This is going to be good for finger flexion and wrist flexion. So that's going to contribute a lot to forearm thickness, function, and strength. Now it could lose points if you don't have a cable system. You're not going to be able to do these unless you're at a gym. So depending on if you have a cable system or not, or the pulley system, these are definitely very good. These are non-negotiable if you're arm wrestling. For forearm thickness, they're still going to be extremely beneficial. Now we're going to go into reverse curls. So that's going to be a pronated grip. Really going to work elbow flexion and a little bit of wrist extension. So this will include a barbell, easy bar curl, cable D handle, and even a dumbbell. These are amazing. They're more specific than a hammer curl. They feel really good. If you actually try to contract your forearm, these feel amazing, but they don't do much for finger flexion and wrist flexion. So that's where they might lose some points. So I will put them a little bit below wrist curls. Now we're going to go into dead hangs. It's a little bit similar to farmer's walks. They are really going to hit the finger flexors. Good for functional and strength benefit. If you have a pull-up bar at home, be very, very easy to consistently do these, but you're not really training any other function. So with that being said, I personally like these more than farmer's walks. You could just go up to a bar and you can do these one-handed. You can add weight to yourself if necessary, but it's just very easy to do these. And you're going to be stretching out, decompressing the spine. I like these personally more than farmer's walks. Now we're going to go into finger curls. You can do these with barbell, dumbbell, even with a cable D handle. And these are going to smash your finger flexors amazingly. So forearm thickness, these are very good. Function and strength benefits, very good. Setup, convenience, and consistency can be pretty consistent. So I'm going to put these at the top. These are going to be interchangeable. So these are all very good. Now we're going to go into the thumb war. So you could do a variation that works more of the finger flexors. This device is amazing. I love it for hand thickness, but for forearm thickness, it is going to train your finger flexion and more on the fingertips, but it isn't going to do much for the other benefits. It is going to be amazing for function and strength benefits. You can set this up and be very consistent with this. So this is basically like finger curls in some regard. You do have to buy the device, so that could be a con. But if you have this set up, you can do these like every other day. And because they hit finger flexion, I personally like this device a lot, so I will rank these very high for myself. Now we're going to go into back training without straps. So that's going to hit finger flexion, and depending on the exercise, elbow flexion. So your forearms. So that's going to be the brachioradialis. So this is indirect training, and I don't train with straps in general. So this extra indirect work is going to help with forearm thickness, but it's not direct. And it's a little bit less direct than maybe farmer's walks. So I'll place these in good. If you get really strong with your back movements and you don't use straps, these could be much higher, but it's just a little bit not direct for my taste. Now we have fat grips, and these are going to hit finger flexion. They are going to be good for function and strength benefit. Could be easy to set up and be consistent with. I think if you do include them, they are going to be very beneficial. I like them more for arm wrestling training than forearm thickness, but they are very good for function and strength benefit. Extension. This is an underrated movement for your forearm. It is going to work some of the forearm muscles near your wrist, and it's really going to shape your forearm a little bit differently, but it contributes very little to your overall thickness. So with that being said, it's not bad. It is good if you want to have some crazy development with your forearms, but if you're just looking for size, then these are a little bit lower in my opinion. Now we're going to go into rice bucket training. These can work essentially every single function of your forearm, even finger flexion, can be good for forearm thickness, could be good for function and strength benefit. Since you can do these at home and be consistent, rice bucket training is very good. You can do it in a different material to make it harder. You can also change the way you do rice bucket training. So just putting more tension in your hand is going to make it much harder. Just think of it like a bodybuilder flexing their muscle during a bicep curl. They're trying to squeeze that muscle as hard as possible. You have to think the same way when you're doing rice bucket training. Put as much tension into your forearm as you can, and this will make it much harder, and you're going to target the forearms much better, and you'll get to failure much quicker. If you're going to do one exercise, this could be at the top as well. There is argument that there are better exercises for each individual movement pattern, but since you can choose one device to train essentially every function except for elbow flexion, so that's where it will lose points. Still, overall, it's going to be an amazing device. It's going to help prevent injury and balance out your forearm development. It's definitely good. It's going to be good for arm wrestling as well. Now we have the wrist riser. This is another product from Golden Grip. This is going to primarily work radial deviation and ulnar deviation. So as for forearm thickness, this does contribute less. For function and strength benefit, this is actually very good. Might lose points because if you have a cable machine at home, then this can be amazing. Or if you're able to go to a commercial gym, then it's going to be very good, but you're going to have to bring the product. So this is my favorite device for radial deviation and ulnar deviation. So this could help prevent wrist injury. It's going to be really good for arm wrestling, but it's not going to be the best for forearm thickness. This is definitely 100% my favorite movement for ulnar deviation. So that's moving the wrist down. And I was very surprised with this movement that how strong that movement can be when you're training it with this device. You will have to incorporate other movements, unfortunately, but still an exercise that I like a lot. Now we're going to go into this forearm device, like a forearm bar. And after experimenting with this device, this is actually amazing. You can essentially train every function except for finger flexion. So suppose that does lose points, but it's so convenient it is good for functional benefits. You can set this up at home, have 5 or 10 pound weight on it, and you can train a lot of different functions. So I like this device a lot. It's very underrated. When I started using this is definitely a personal favorite that I now incorporate. You can either do pronation, supination, really easy. Now we're going to go into this grip machine that you can find at a gym. I will include the Bruce Lee machine because it's basically the same function. And this is going to primarily work finger flexion. It's going to be good for function and strength benefit. Might not be easy to set up. Either you're going to have to buy the Bruce Lee device or do it at a commercial gym, but it's really going to hit finger flexion amazingly and just make you really strong with your grip strength too. But if you're able to do this, you are going to get some thick forearms for sure and grip strength. So now we're going to go into bands. So you can do different various exercises with the bands, even finger flexion. You can essentially work every single function with the band. I've done a workout video going over all the different ways you can train with the band. I guess downside that you can say is some exercises feel better. Band training has definitely grown on me. It definitely feels good on your connective tissue. You could easily set this up. You can get various different bands. It's one way to progress. So band work has definitely grown on me. I might choose other exercises above this one. Still overall good. And now we're going to go into arm wrestling. So as someone that has done arm wrestling, this is going to be good for form thickness, function, strength benefit. Now it might lose points to being consistent with it, as you can only arm wrestle for so much. So this will be specifically talking about arm wrestling itself, practicing with another person or ideally at a club. But it is going to basically train every single function of your forearm. This is definitely going to be an amazing thing to help develop your forearms. And if you look at forearm measurements for arm wrestlers, they are some of the craziest for sure, but they also incorporate strength exercises. But I still believe you are going to get a lot of benefit for form thickness, strength benefit. It will lose points for being consistent, but in the long term, you will get thick forearms. So that's my forearm tier list. So with the top rankings, a lot of these can be interchangeable. So just take that into consideration. But so that was my tier list. I basically just chose exercises that I liked and I just talked about them. I didn't really choose any bad exercises. Probably would have been better for the video, but it is what it is. I'm already changing my mind on some of the placements, but I'm not going to change anything. If you want to learn more and have direct coaching by yours truly, you can join my school community page where you can have direct access to me and more in-depth videos and guides on my training.